Hello, everyone. Cosmic Diva here, and I hope you guys are having an excellent weekend and an excellent holiday. I wanted to share some video with you guys, and it's pretty interesting. Now, I know, and I hope you guys know, that our sun is a bit different these days, and I've spent a lot of time taking pictures, video, reading things, trying to gather as much information as I can on it. And I think at this point, I'm starting to find a few more answers to my questions that make a lot more sense than the scary stuff that's out there suggesting that a big planet's coming this way. So if you're checking out my screen now, what you are looking at is footage from the ISS recorded a few days ago. They had a bunch of astronauts go up there and change out the cameras and the lights and all this stuff. Now, I watched this video for a while, and I had to watch it like 100 times because I couldn't believe some of the stuff that I was seeing. And as a professional photographer, I noticed that they were putting in lights around the ISS that looked a lot like, well, not a lot, but looked similar to some of the studio lights I've used and still use sometimes depending on the location and setup. Now, what I have going on here is a slowdown of some of the more intriguing moments of this ISS walk. Now, I took the video and slowed it down for you, as well as messed around with some of the coloring you can see here is in the black and white shot. I've pulled all the coloring out here, and you could see that there's some things that just don't leave the shot. Now, what I found also fascinating about this footage was the lighting, and I was wondering to myself, why do you need colored lights if the lights that you're installing are just to check things out on the ISS? That just seemed really weird. I'm sure there's a great reason. Okay, sure, that's possible. But I don't know what it is, so I'm just going to be intrigued by the fact that they are installing Fresnel lenses and filters, colored filters. I find this very fascinating because I don't really see the point of that if you just need to see what's happening on the ISS. That just seems weird. So you can see here in my video that I saved and slowed down, and I cut out a few pieces because this was 4 hours of footage that I ended up with. You could see the astronaut here with mirrors on his or her gloves. I'm not sure which one is working on this part right here, but one of the astronauts has mirrors on their gloves. And I found some of the things that were being captured here weird. Like, you could see here we've got this hexagonal light source coming in here, and it looks like it could be the sun. But as you saw at the top of the video, this cord or this cable connection piece that you see floating up there on the top, near the top left corner, I found it very odd that if it was the sun, how can this little strap, this cord, take out the light of the sun? Then I'm thinking to myself, hey, that's, this cord that can cut out the sun. Maybe that's not the sun, perhaps it's a light. And that light is pretty freaking bright. And it looks like it has some type of filterized coloring on it. Fresnel lenses are used in photography and used in lighting. They're Fresnel lights. And they have the ability, as far as I know here on Earth, a Fresnel light, you can enhance the spread or the circular projection of the light. You can put filters over the light to give yourself different colors. There are filters with shapes in them, and you can make like fake starlights on your set. You can do lots of fun stuff with Fresnel lights. But the one thing I know about Fresnel lights is they are hot. So that encouraged me to go check out a little bit of what they're using as far as light sources on the ISS. And I came across something called metal halide bulbs. And those look a lot like some of the older lights that I've used. And it's a straight bulb. It's not rounded. It's a line straight across. But the housing unit for the light can come in a wide, I'm assuming if it's going on the shuttle or the ISS, it could have a wide varying amount of shapes because it would be custom made for this. I've seen lights come with a square housing, a round housing, and I know that those lights can be made to create all types of shapes, including the shape that you see here as the baffle. I'm assuming this is a baffle. That's what it looks like to me, that the shuttle that's being moved around here by the astronaut, this looks like a baffle to cover a light. Now, that's probably not what it is. Maybe it's not. I don't know. Maybe it is. But this looks like that's what that is. And what I'm seeing, what appears to me is that the light source that is being covered up at this point, the light source could be coming from within that device, or it could be coming from above it. And I say that the light in front of the astronaut right now could be the light source that's being covered up. I say that that's a possibility just because of the backside of the light where the arm is coming from. Those, the branches, so to speak, that are coming out from the arm look like they're connected to bulbs or the housing casing, the coverage for the bulb. Now, I'm watching, if you're watching right now, still here, you see that the light source that is behind the astronaut is changing colors. So that tells me that you got some filter action going on. So you can have a look here. You can see that off behind or far in front of the astronaut, you've got another light source coming down onto the panels now. The baffle, I'm just going to call it the baffle, moves over again, and we see the light, and we see it go away. Now, a lot of my videos from before this video, you can see that I'm capturing a sun with a beam of light like what you see when this baffle moves over. You see this up and down, this top to bottom beam of light that just doesn't make sense. And it's interesting that that beam of light is happening here. So, of course, now when I see this matching the videos and pictures that I'm capturing on the ground, of course, this is going to catch my attention. So I kept reading and trying to figure out, like, what could this be that would create such a strong light? Now you see this, the beam up in the yellow beam, you see that it's there again, you just saw it. And we're capturing this thing down here on Earth. So this is weird. And now I'm asking the question, how is that thing happening at what is supposed to be the sun and also happening on the ISS within their studio lights? I'm going to call them studio lights. They're not studio lights. They are deck lights. They are vehicle lights. They're work lights. But I'm going to call them studio lights. So you see the beam there again, this yellow outrageous beam along with the hexagonal shapes. You see some dots, you see some reds, you see some green, I see some blue. You've got all these colors, and as far as I know, they make filters those colors too. Yeah. Okay, so forgive me as I'm explaining this and I'm using all these filler words like and yeah, this is just outrageous to me because it is outrageous and it doesn't make sense. And the theory that does make sense is even more disconcerting than sitting here looking at lights on the ISS that look like the lights I'm capturing on the ground when I take pictures of the sun. I am really at a loss here. So back to this footage. This was live captured off the ISS while they are changing out lights, checking on things, removing things, whatever it is that they're doing. According to press releases, they were up there to change out lights. Yeah. So you see our beam again. And how is this just so easily covered? This is what's got me questioning, is that the sun or is it a light? And I have to lean more towards it being a light. Now I'll go back to that, but let's move ahead to the footage of their sunrise, which I captured from days earlier. I believe this was the 28th of August or the 29th. Now, if you look in the bottom corner, in the bottom center, of the screen, you see a flashing light, right? You see this light flashing. Now, if you look up towards the top left of the screen, you'll see another flashing light that happens to be flashing too. Now you see the light at the bottom half of the screen is going off again, right? And to me, it seems like a signal, like a laser beam signal, right? And as these two things start to go off and do their, what I think is communication of some sort, like a garage door remote signals the garage door to open, you see the light in the center towards the top of the screen, which I'm going to call our sunlight. You see the sunlight start to get brighter, and it looks like sun's coming up. So, oh boy, yeah, that to me suggests that there's something out there, off the Earth, floating around in outer space there, and it signals or is communicating with something on top of the ISS. And once those two things communicate, sun begins to rise, whether it's naturally or or not naturally. Yeah, you could see it's coming up. And as it is starting to rise, you see parts of the ISS lighting up. Now, I want you to keep an occasional eye on whatever's happening to the far left of the screen that's attached to the pipe, this long pipe on the ISS. You see the ISS turn yellow, an orangish yellow. More yellow starts to be seen in the shot, and maybe it's the filters that make the ISS now turn to more of a silver daylight color. If you have daylight bulbs in your house, you know they are blue colored. Now, if you see off to the left of the screen that this square box attached to the ISS is letting off a light, and we have now lost what looked like sunrise coming up, right? And we see, if you keep watching, you're going to see this light source on the far left turn itself off. So let's watch what is supposed to be sunrise. Now you see our light change. I'm going to assume that this is an on-board light somewhere on the ISS that was lighting from behind and now is not. Or they're turning it down or whatever. Now the side that we're looking at, you can look towards the middle there of the large ISS tube on the right, and you'll see a red dot, a white. This is, I guess, a part of Japan's part of the ISS. Because for some reason, we can get along in outer space perfectly well. Russia's up here too. We can all get along in outer space, but not on Earth. But let's skip over that and get back to looking at our beautiful sunrise. So you see off in the far distance, off into the horizon, you see more of the Earth being covered by the light. And then magically, our sun just like pop, there it is. Now check it out. Our light source to the left has gone away. They turned it off. And we've got this hexagonal shape flare that's coming out at us, along with these extra dots. If you see to the left of our, and I quote, sun, there's an orb of some sort to the left, an orb at the bottom, and possibly some orb somewhere else. But hey, check it out. There's that beam, that up and down, this beam that's going up here. This white beam and all of these beautiful horizontal shapes that are coming from, I don't even know what direction this is coming from now, but it looked like it was sunrise coming up from behind, and I'm basing that on the fact that we saw this white light coming up over the horizon of the Earth, and then magically pop, there it is. Now, if you take a close look, you'll see around this, and I quote, sunlight thing, you see a red to the left, green to the center, blue to the right. Red, green, and blue. We use these colors for television. We use this in film. These are the three colors that your eye will see, and you could put those colors together and make all types of other colors. And you can see by our hexagonal shape there, we've got lots of different colors. Now, if you see to the left, lower left of our, and I quote, sun, you see an orb that is either the orb is moving away or our sunlight is moving away. Along with our beam of light. Now, what I find most interesting is that we have this beam shooting straight through, up and down, top to bottom, and our flares from this light are going to the left, and I'm assuming this is because our light, our big sunlight, is happening to the far right. So in the camera, based on the curvature of the lens, you're going to see this flip. Now, notice around the sun, some of us have captured this in our photos here on Earth. We've got this round darkness. Oh, look, they've adjusted it. See how it lightened up there? It changed colors a bit. Now you can look at this sun and it looks yellow on the inside. And that can happen when you adjust the brightness going through one of those colorized filters. Now you see that our beam has turned purple. You see above the top of the beam, we have this green, oozy looking weird light something that's left, that appears to leave a trail. They adjust the lights again, and you see our hexagon flaring change in shape, right? Now we have lost a lot of our beam's power that was going straight up and down. Our beam has taken more of an angle, and our hexagons have turned purple. And if you look towards the bottom of the screen, on the bottom left, you see our flaring goes off into what looks like total darkness. And dead ahead on the screen, and a bit to the right, you see two orbs. Now, if you keep looking past those, you're going to see a bunch of orbs. And they are in some type of lineup. There's some symmetry going on here. This is weird. So weird. Man, what is that? Now you can clearly see underneath, it's our Earth, and I quote, going by there. It's, yeah. Now here's my question. You see our flaring happening. The flares that were once ginormous have become smaller and are now extended underneath the ISS, which to me indicates that our light source is overhead, but you still see these two orbs where, straight into the shot, you see these two white orbs. What are they doing? They're just hanging out. They're not going anywhere. Yeah. Now, if you look towards the orb that's further to the right, and you look just down, next to the A-shaped arm attached to the ISS, there is a red orb now. I don't know what that is. I don't know what any of these orbs are. I just see them, and as somebody who takes pictures, I'm fascinated by what is being lit up here, and it really feels like if that's the sun, its enhancements, it ain't natural. The enhancements that are going on right here are coming off the ISS, man. And I think that there's something happening off the horizon that is enhancing this light, turning it on, turning it off, making it brighter, repurposing it. I did a lot of research, as much as I could with the time I had online, and I found a number of things that could be up there. It's fascinating if you just start having a look around. Now, here comes our light source again in the shot, and you got this round sundog type of flaring going on that we saw at the beginning of, and I quote, sunrise. We see this sundog again, and I wanted to show you guys a bit closer of what I believe is the communication that I believe is happening between two electronic objects, one being in orbit and one attached to the ISS, or as I call it, maybe the garage door opener for the sun. Now here at the bottom again, I zoomed in a bit so you could see the flashing light, right? It's a signal. This is a signaling of some sort. Now off to the horizon, you see this green light, and it's flashing and it's responding, right? Now look towards the center of the screen here. You're getting some type of fuzz as the light off in the horizon starts to brighten up. There's our ISS. You see a color shift. You see a light turning on and off. And then you see them turn the light down. But you still see off to the left, there is a hot box, a light of some sort that is lit. And then here comes our sun, and I quote, and Sundog, and our beam in full effect. There it is, along with the orbs. Now, some of us have captured pictures here on Earth that have some weird orbs in them. They look a bit more oval shaped, and they do form a pattern, a square overall, but a square within the square are these orbs. Usually when I see them, they're red. Okay? So the color shifting of this light is weird. Okay? And obviously on purpose. But these hexagons, well, they can't be denied. Okay? It's not a part of, it's just not a part of the camera. It's not a part of the lens. This is something that is coming from up there. This is a true shape being created by something artificial. No different than creating, fake stars. I hate to use that. Other than, when you're shooting in a studio and you want to create, maybe a black starlight scene, you can do it in post when you're editing, or you can, and shoot on green screen, or you can get really ginormous studio lights and filters that go over the light, and they project any shape you want, or any color that you want. Now, if I were going to make a sun in my studio from a sunlight, if I were going to create a fake sun in my room, I would have to have some filters, and they would require a bit of adjusting according to all of the ambient light. In this case, the ambient light could be the real sun, and if you were trying to enhance the real sun, you would have to adjust your filters. And you would have to adjust your filters based on the atmospheric conditions at any given moment or day. Yeah, so there's that. So there's our artificial sun light. And we see our Sundog and how it, if you look around this big black circle and the beam, you see you have like a pink purple light. You've got your green smudge at the bottom. You've got your greens and your blues. But what is constant is this hexagon. So, is the sun a hexagon shape? See, I don't think it is. I don't know. I'm not up there. I just don't think it is. But I think the enhancement, or whatever they have floating around up there, I think that has a hexagonal flaring, a hexagonal shadowing, a mirroring effect of some sort. Perhaps the covering on it is of a hexagon shape. The light could be a hexagon shape. There could be tubing around the light that's pushing off a hexagonal shape. And that doesn't explain the orbs that are still in plain view straight ahead in the shot, floating over the earth. That is not a flare. That's not a refraction. It's not it could be reflecting off, and that's what's lighting it up, but it is reflecting off something. And it's reflecting towards something. Yeah. This is crazy. Now, if you look in the shot I've got going here, the flaring that's coming off of this artificial sun has, if you notice, just above this round part of the ISS, there are rings with holes in them. And as they are brightened up, it looks like the ring edge around a studio light. I'm just reminded of that. I'm not saying that's what it is, but it looks like the edge plating of a studio light. And then around in the center of that edge would be the bulb. It could also be a ring light. As I said, if you're making lights for outer space, they'd have to be custom made and who knows what shape they'd be in, but, you know, if I were going to do that, of course, I'd probably have to match some shapes that are out there. We got to keep our sun looking like the sun, yeah? So here's more of the ISS footage, and there's those dots, those circle things, those ring lights, the signals. I don't know what that is. I could tell you straight down towards the bottom center of the screen, we still have the hexagonal flaring pointed now towards the Earth. You see the round barrel up to the far right corner of the screen, and it's got the sunlight reflecting off just one corner of it. I have a problem with this shot too, because if that's the sun, the whole rounded piece should be lit up. Why is just one part lit up? Is that where the light's coming from? Is it a reflector? Is that what is intercepting the beam and creating this beam, or adding to it, enhancing it? So, having seen all that, I have drawn a few more conclusions and theories and guesses, pretty much, because that's really all it is. Till one of us gets on a rocket and goes up there and checks it out for ourselves. One of the theories that I started to look into was the connection with this hexagonal shape and man-made satellites, which brought me back around to carbon nanotubes, light sails, and did you know that NASA also shoots beams from outer space down to one of their locations in Wrightwood, California, and they can send data and video. Now, if you can shoot a beam of data, you can certainly shoot a beam of light. And especially if you have filters and big, gigantic lights that are equivalent to the sunlight. Now, if you are into cars, you've heard of xenon bulbs. The bulbs that they have on board the ISS can only be better than a xenon bulb, higher quality, less likely to explode when they stop working. Yeah, they explode, at least the ones I know. And if you look up the lights that are up on top of the ISS, you'll see they're very similar to xenon bulbs in the way they're made. But again, hey, they're probably like super awesome and don't explode. So bringing myself back around to the hexagon shapes, I'm going to show you guys a few pictures here to corroborate the images being similar on the ISS as well as on the ground that people are capturing. Now you see here from the all sky cams, you've got the Sundog in the sky Sundog, along with that beam going up and down, top to bottom of the screen. So we're seeing the same thing up there as we are down here, right? There's the sunlight. There's the sky, Sundog. I mean, these are spectacular images. But when you see stuff like this, you gotta ask, is it natural? Now, what I'm showing you here is a really gigantic ball. Yes, I know, it's huge. It's freaking huge, isn't it? Totally. So, at one point in time, this was in outer space. In 1966, the U.S. Air Force launched the PASCOM-SAT, a 9-meter, 30 feet, inflatable communication satellite. It's a big 30-foot black ball, also known as OV-1-8, or a passive communication satellite, basically. Now, This was a part of the orbiting vehicle program that they were running. The satellite functioned as a reflector, not a transceiver, so that after it was placed in low Earth orbit, a signal would be sent to it, reflected or bounced off its surface, and then returned to Earth. This grid-shaped sphere with all these grids, you see these hexagonal shapes? Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? This design was put all over the sphere in an effort to reduce the effects of solar pressure and space drag, which they discovered was a problem during Project Echo. You can look that up. The Air Force contracted with Goodyear Aerospace for a construction of this big black ball, this big space balloon. This thing was made of soft aluminum with wire grid embedded in this special design, and this was supposed to dissolve out in outer space under the sun's strong ultraviolet rays. So I guess that means there's nothing to worry about of this thing falling back to Earth, right? So they launched this thing in July of 66, y'all, 1966. This went up on top of an Atlas rocket. It went into orbit, and that's where they inflated it with helium. The plastic covering dissolved, leaving an open aluminum structure orbiting the Earth. They did their tests on it and discovered that it was going to stay in orbit for at least 11 years, and it had a reflective power 5 times greater than that of a solid sphere. The satellite decayed from orbit on January 4th, 1978. You can rewind that if you need to hear that again. So in 1966, they had the ability to put a balloon, a reflective balloon, that could reflect signals, could reflect light, and can float for 11 years in the sun. So if that was in 66, and they had to till 78, 11 years to study that thing, how far have we gotten now? Now, I showed you some other balls here too, and those are the ones that they created, once they improved upon their technology. And they used something as thin and lightweight as an aluminumized mylar balloons were used during this second half of their experiment when they got better at what they were doing. Fascinating, isn't it? Now, moving on to the next image I have here. Now, this one's just a big bucket of weird. So, now let's move into carbon nanotubes. Okay? Carbon nanotubes, you're going to have to look this stuff up and check it out for yourself. Extremely tiny, hence the prefix nano, comes from their dimensions, which is about 1/1000th of a meter. Carbon nanotubes are rolled up 3-dimensional carbon tubes. Carbon nanotubes are extremely tiny, rolled up 3-dimensional carbon tubes made of a hexagonal graphite lattice. The first cousin to 2 other forms of carbon, being the well-known diamond and something relatively new called a Buckminster fullerene. Now the latter, also known as buckyballs, which is way easier to say, those were discovered by a team at Rice University in 1985. Buckminster Fuller is the inventor of the geodesic dome. The fullerene's 60 carbon atoms are arranged spherically as 12 pentagons and 20 hexagons. Now, okay, so we've got these nanotube things, and I know we're like, okay, who cares about this? Why do we care about nanotubes? There's a website called enterprisemission.com, which is where I'm looking up some of this stuff at right now, because it tells a really good story here. Nanotubes, though very much still in the infant research phase, show many promising world-changing applications. Nanotubes are shown to be very strong materials. In fact, nanotubes are at least 1,000 times stronger than steel rods of the same size. Some of those ideas include composite structures, super strong cables, small nanogears, or nanomachinery, and a possible storage medium for chemicals. Currently, they've just created some of the largest pieces of nanotubing, carbon nanotube, and as long as 3 feet by 6 feet sheets of it have been made up to this point. Israel has the third largest concentration of nanotechnology startup companies, surpassed only by California and Boston. Overall, Israel has about 80 companies, both large and small, working in its nanotech sector. Now, Israeli nanotechnology researchers have filed over 1,500 patents, published over 10,000 scientific articles, and demonstrated success with 129 nanotechnology innovations. I didn't know any of that stuff, but it sure is interesting. I don't understand now. I'm really even more confused as to why we all can't get along when we are this intelligent all around the world. What are we fighting for when we could be making space elevators? Seriously? Notice some of the shapes. There's your hexagons. Yeah. I don't know, y'all. I don't know what it is. I think that our sun is being enhanced by something. Maybe this is a part of an experiment, and we just happen to be seeing it because they didn't do it right. Or maybe they did do it right, and they're pushing more light back down because we need stuff to grow. And if you look at NASA and SOHO and, any of the sun cameras, you can see our sun clearly going through some things. So perhaps these things enhance. Perhaps it's a part of the Dyson sphere that they intend to build around the sun. I don't know. That's fantasy. I don't know. We're not going to go there because we're not ready for that yet. But I am going to tell you that there is something going on out there, man. Somebody bring back the X-Files real quick. Thanks for checking out my video. And if you guys have some details to add to this, shoot them my way or point me to a video. There's just a lot of people talking about this. And we are uncovering something. And it does look man-made. Or at least man-enhanced. Have a good one, you guys. Talk to you later.